Good morning and welcome to Wednesday morning devotions. And we will be talking about the texts from Sunday, September 5th. Isaiah chapter 35 verses 4 through 7, Psalm 146, James chapter 2 verses 1 through 10 and 14 through 17. And the gospel this week is Mark chapter 7 verses 24 through 37. And I guess the one thing that I will say to start it out, I'll surprise you, is that I know I often hear you say, Michelle, that, the words of Jesus are kind of hard sometimes. But I guess this week I got stuck in Mark, in the story of the Gentile woman and how Jesus talked to her. And I'm surprised that sometimes he lets something mean come out. So that was what surprised me the most, and I know you're going to be able to explain that to me. But that was what, when he basically, I felt like when she asked him to heal her daughter, and he said that let the children be fed first, for it's not fair to take food and throw to the dogs like she was a dog. And I just was really surprised, and I'm anxious to hear how we can explain this.
Well, Martin Luther always said, when you get confused by Scripture, let the whole of Scripture interpret it for you. So the fact that Jesus, in pretty much every other story, is welcoming to people who are the outsiders. Mm-hmm. So you have to say to yourself, then what might be going on in this particular instance? And I think he's probably doing it. I think he is quoting a popular phrase of the time. And I think he's doing it to kind of test out the waters, not necessarily because he believes it. You know how sometimes we play the devil's advocate?
Yeah.
And I suspect that that's what he's doing here. Now, somebody else might have a better idea, but that's what I suspect is going on.
So do you think he was testing the waters or testing her, or both?
I think just seeing, putting it out there and seeing what response he got. Like at the woman at the well, how off the disciples are just scandalized, and I think that sometimes Jesus just kind of does things and sees how people respond, and then he can use that as a teachable moment.
And that woman at the well had a snapback for him then too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it all worked out. And I think for this woman, I kind of related back to last week's scripture about watching your tongue and using wisdom. And I thought she was very smart with her response to him. And that maybe she was more wise than some of the others, because
sitting at the table.
She knew how to respond in a manner that would not necessarily anger, but bring the conversation around.
I think too about what you will do for the sake of your child.
Sure.
And the fact that she exhibits here an intensely a huge faith in this holy man, this Jesus that she has come to, doesn't she?
She broke a lot of rules to talk to him.
Yes.
She was a woman without a man. In public. She was talking to a male stranger, and that was taboo. She was a Gentile. So she had a child who was, although they don't explain what that looks like, but a lot of times a child possessed by the demon would act in a socially inappropriate way, so they would be outcasts in society, but really as far from what she should have been doing as possible. Yeah. Should not have ever talked to Jesus.
And yet she did it.
Yes.
She did it. And I think that it shows a deep faith and I imagine going to somebody I really respect and I know can help me, mm-hmm. and having them push you away, and how devastating that would be. And yet she doesn't give up. She just says, okay, maybe that's true, but
yeah. And she follows a pattern. There have been several stories where people who are outsiders are reaching towards Jesus, and not and kind of jumping out of their own comfort zone because they know that he could push them away.
Well, and the man was, the man that came and asked to be healed, who had, couldn't hear, was deaf, and had a speech impediment, probably because he couldn't hear. Mm-hmm. He was also a Gentile. He was also an outcast of society because he wasn't able to communicate. And he too, and I have to wonder, what does that say to us here at St. John? Is we're looking at Girl My Church and trying to, make changes and help our community and, the bigger world. Like, how can we go outside our comfort zone? And how can we go outside out, do we just talk to the Israelites, or do we go out and we talk to the Gentiles with speech impediments? And so how can we do that? How can we go outside our comfort zone and help the outsiders that maybe are kind of scared of us? And,
sometimes I think we are spiritually deaf and blind.
So, that's us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even though we think that we know, a lot of times we don't prove that we know. And we're tired, we're exhausted, and Jesus shows this here. He sighs. Why did he sigh? Is he like, oh, these people?
Well, it does say he was trying to get away from them.
Yeah,
when he came here.
They're hounding me. They're, I just don't get a break.
Do you know what I like about that story, though, of the deaf and blind man? Is it's not him coming to them, it's his friends bringing them. It's the family and the friends who are bringing this man to Jesus and saying, please. And so I see it as that church without walls,
mm-hmm.
of us carrying each other in those times that we need to be carried.
And everyone has carried me so well. Thank you. Sorry.
It made me cry.
I knew I wasn't ready for this.
You're ready, because that's real. And that's, when we look at these and we say, what do these mean and how can we apply it? That, what you just said is the most real thing. We look at the people that are in need and have things happening in their life, and how can we help them? How can we share our faith with them, and how can, we uplift them? And so I think,
when I was in seminary, I went through a really rough time, and I had somebody tell me this story that, Michelle, you don't need to believe right now. I will believe for you, just as others have believed for me. And I just think of that we carry each other, and we are all in that spot sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Which brings our psalm into it. Verse 1. Everybody has heard probably so many times throughout their lifetime. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. He's there. And in Isaiah's reading, it's God's commitment to us, to save us, to calm us and care for us, which he does through our community.
Well, and we can't end without me saying, I love, 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 love Isaiah 35.
good.
Why? I just think it's beautiful. I say to those who are of a fearful heart, be strong, don't be afraid. Here's your God. So they've gone through this horrible experience, and all of a sudden you have this climactic, beautiful reversal of all the horrible things that have gone before them. And God proclaiming, there's a future of hope for you out there. And I just love it.
The future of hope. And also in Psalm 146 is another verse that is super important in certain times. Verse 10, be still and know that I am God. Sometimes all we have to do is just be still, and we don't have to, let somebody else carry you.
I don't want to stop talking because this is such good conversation, but our time is up, and some days I know that we just get going and we could probably go on for a long time. But we just want to give you a taste of the feast to come on Sunday. So,
Because you should see us talk before the camera rolls.
yeah, we have to stop because else we say everything we're going to say before we start. So we hope you have a great week. We hope you can join us live on Sunday at 9 o'clock here at St. John. You can come in person or join us on Facebook Live. So have a great week and thanks for joining us.
And share.